This is a $5,000 racing simulator. And this is a $50,000 racing simulator. And we're gonna be giving everything away, plus $1 million of cash. Just kidding. But we are gonna be giving away this Conspit Max 01 steering wheel. So make sure you stick around in the video because at one point I'm gonna drop the details of how you can win your very own steering wheel. This is my $50,000 sim rig. I use this on a daily basis to practice for my real racing, train drivers in real life, and just have fun on the sim. This is a $5,000 sim rig, 10 times less expensive than what I'm currently using. And I wanna see if this rig can hold up against what I use on a daily basis. I wanna compare this rig in 3 different areas. How fast can I be? How does it feel? And how does it compare to my real race car? Because one thing that's interesting about these pedals is that they're hydraulic. Before we talk about the hardware, I just wanna quickly touch on why we're even doing this test. Back in 2025, I went to the Sim Racing Expo and tested all the Conspit stuff out for myself. I was actually pretty impressed. So I asked them if I could test everything on my own rig at home with my own ergonomics and just in a controlled environment. I'm not gonna give you a detailed breakdown about all the specs of this Conspit equipment because at the end of the day, I'm a race car driver and what you're here for is my feedback in terms of how it connects to real life and what my feeling is on the sim. So we're gonna leave that kind of stuff to people like Will Ford at Boosted Media. He made an amazing review on the Conspit gear. I strongly suggest you check that out if you haven't experienced Conspit or you don't know what Conspit is. He did a phenomenal job. I actually watched the whole thing to make sure that I was kind of up to speed on what the equipment actually is. Because for me, I'm just gonna give you my feedback and what my feelings are behind the wheel and the pedals of this gear. Now, what we have is the Conspit CPP Evo 2 pedals. Those are hydraulic pedals, which I'm really interested to try because I haven't really experienced hydraulic pedals on a sim. I've always used load cell, which is pretty conventional, or SimiCube active pedals, which are motorized pedals. Wheelbase wise, we're using the Conspit Aries Platinum 20 Newton meter wheel. It has a 23-bit encoder. It's an optical encoder, which means it's a lot more precise. Not too familiar with the details, but we're gonna get our hands on that steering wheel and on the motor and understand exactly how quick it is and how raw the feedback is. Steering wheels, we're gonna be using the Conspit 300 GT and the Max 01. One of them is more GT style and the other one is gonna be geared towards more prototype or single seater. So I'm very excited to show those because I'm gonna give you a spoiler here. I already made a video on them and I think they're some of the best steering wheels in sim racing for the price. Now on my new rig that we've just installed a few months ago, I have the D-Box Gen 5 motion system. It's a 5 DOF system with the cubic belt tensioner, SimiCube 3 motor, SimiCube active pedals, triple monitors. This is as good as it gets in the industry in terms of high-end equipment. Now it's time to jump behind the wheel of this full Conspit rig. We're gonna drive 5 laps in the Porsche Cup Car at Sonoma. I'm gonna put it to the test. Before I get into this test, I need to first dial in all this equipment. So I'm gonna start driving it with its raw settings on the pedals and the steering motor. I need to do a few laps, get a feel for it, and then I'm gonna do some fine-tune adjustments. I'm gonna make my own profiles for both the pedals and the wheel, and we're gonna see what we come up with before we actually do this comparison. What's really cool is actually Conspit provides this pop-out telemetry bar. That's really gonna be useful for me in terms of dialing in these pedals because I need to see where they're at. Like I have no clue what the pedals are feeling like, what they actually represent in terms of my input and output. So this is gonna help me really feel and exactly know what's going on with the pedals. All right, so let's start with the pedals. Throttle position wise, I got a little bit of an S curve going. I went with the preset 4 and that felt good to me because I like the S curve in terms of having more flexibility on the high end percentage of the pedal input. That's just gonna give you more control when you have a lot more power so you can control the wheel spin. On the braking side, I left the strength at 0 bar. I don't know for what reason, it just didn't seem to affect anything, but I set and calibrated my minimum and maximum force. I've set everything to 100% in terms of the value. And when I brake, it seems to be going up to around 100 bar of brake pressure, which is approximately what we achieve in a real race car. 90 to 100 bar is maximum brake force for most cars I've driven. So the brakes, really good. We have a little bit of a logarithmic curve. You can see how it's shaped like a half rainbow. And the reason I went for that is because when I go with that high pressure, I want to be able to make it less sensitive at the very top. So it flattens off at the top end of the curve mapping. Really happy with the brake and the throttle. Now let's jump over to the wheelbase. These are the wheelbase settings that I arrived on. I had to do a little bit of tweaking to get it just right, but already right out of the box, it was so raw, and that's way better than having an over dampened steering wheel. So I had to add a lot of effects in there, friction, damper. I had to adjust the inertia up just to give that feeling of weight in the steering wheel. But I really love what I've arrived at here with this wheelbase setting. And now we're gonna hit the track and try to see how fast we can go with it. A cool aspect about the 300 GT wheel before I actually jump on track is you have a screen. It's not SimHub compatible, but you have to run this through the Conspit software. But it is nice to have a screen with LEDs just in case you're driving a car that has a screen and you need some kind of information, but it's blocked off. This is super handy. It could be your one wheel serves all, technically. I will select, so I'm gonna go through the preset. I have it set to a button on the back of my wheel. We're gonna set this screen. I just want lap time and fuel. So I've already done 7 laps just to kind of dial this thing in. Let's see if we can beat our lap time here at Sonoma. So cold tires right out of the pits. I'm looking for a good amount of feel with the steering wheel, and it is so sharp. Honestly, it kind of blew me away. First time I started driving with this, I actually thought it was going to be a little bit more numb, but it has a lot of sharpness. So that's really good. You don't want the excessive damping when everything's set to 0. Really quick, I can feel the oversteer. Here, we're on cold tires, and I'm able to catch every little slide. I can feel the understeer in the car as well. The wheel gets light. So it's just giving you a good sensation of like where the limit is on the tire. Okay, so I just went into a brake zone and my brake pedal was vibrating. That's something I didn't talk about. I actually turned the haptic motors on these pedals to simulate ABS. And although they're not like exactly simulating ABS, it is kind of a nice indication of where you are in relation to the limit. Like if I brake really hard and I get into the ABS, it's like, okay, hey man, just release the pedal. You're over the limit. So it's kind of nice to have that little bit of haptic feedback versus just a pedal that's numb with no vibration motor. And the motor is simple. It's like something you'd expect in a controller for your video games. But something so simple is so effective. So let's go ahead and start our first flying lap. It's really nice to have that ABS trigger because in the Porsche Cup car, you do not want to ride ABS for too long. You want to get into it, but not ride it all the way into the corner because the front end just goes numb. Look at it, sliding off the corner, able to catch everything. So the reason we picked Sonoma here as our test track is I'm actually preparing for our next race in a short while at Sonoma in the Porsche Cup car. So this is a really good test bed for me to see how this is going to hold up, not only against my regular sim rig, but even against the real car. Since this has a hydraulic pedal, it's supposedly going to simulate what my race car brake pedal feels like. And straight away, it's different. Like, it is really precise. I can see it on screen. I'm able to hold constant pressure. My trail off with that nice graphic from Conspit, you can see how smooth and consistent the trail off is. The input is really nice, predictable, and intuitive. And I've only driven 7 laps on top of what we're about to do here with the 5-lap run. So I'm right away already able to know where the threshold is. I'm just chipping into the ABS. I can just feel it starting to pulsate on my foot, which is an amazing feedback tool, especially for a professional or even an amateur driver. It will tell you kind of when you're over the limit and how to drive the car at its full capability. It's time to get serious. Tires are getting up to temp. We're gonna try to set some fast lap times here. I drove it in way too deep. I got the ABS feedback really late in that corner just because I rolled too much speed up over the hill. So one thing I really wish I could adjust a bit more is my brake travel. I feel like the brake isn't moving that far, although it's pretty intuitive in terms of the pressure, and I can see whatever I'm pushing on the pedal, I'm getting a good sensation for it in the feedback I get from the overlay, and it's kind of corresponding in my head one-to-one. But I really would have liked to have a bit more throw in the pedal. I feel like the travel isn't as far as I normally would have it set to in like a real car, and you can't adjust travel. Like, this is just what it is in the car, especially as the brakes wear more and more, you get more and more travel downforce in the brake pedal. When you have a fresh brake pad, then you're probably having a little bit less travel. But I think this Conspit, the CPP Evo 2, if I could get a bit more travel out of it, it would be optimal, but it's not really affecting me in the sense of being precise or it being predictable. Right now, the hardest thing to adjust to is the fact that I don't have any motion. That's been one of the things that I've loved about my sim rig. Once I put the motion system on, and not just any motion system, like a really good high quality one that's quick and responsive, that's connected me so much more to my sim. And everyone says that motion makes you slower, but I personally don't think so if it's dialed in right. That's the hardest thing right now that I'm having to deal with, is just adjusting to the fact that my rig is stationary and not moving at all. But there's no question this stuff is really precise. Like, it is, for the price point, I would say really competitive in terms of the feeling and I think how fast I'm about to go. So let's try to focus. I'm gonna keep quiet. This is our last lap. I am going to put everything on the table here and try to put the fastest lap possible down with this setup. Okay, the time across the line is a 1:35.0. 1:35.0, that's the benchmark. Let's jump over to my main rig and see how this thing stands up against my $50,000 rig. Before we go any further, we have to talk about the steering wheels. Conspit offers the 300 GT and the Max 01. They also have the 290. I don't have that here in the studio, but I have used it in the at the Sim Racing Expo, and I really like it. But let's talk about these two steering wheels. I've already featured them in a video where I compare 7 steering wheels against each other head to head. And spoiler, the 300 GT won the entire competition. I think value for money, one of the best steering wheels on the market right now. Really good construction. Like, the price tag doesn't line up with the quality of the steering wheel. Carbon front plate, aluminum design, very minimal plastic, and a lot of functionality on this thing. There's thumb encoders everywhere. Like, look, we have 4 of them. You have magic buttons on the back, at the top, paddles that are really nice, super smooth clutch paddles, and I mean, just all LED illuminated buttons. You have a screen. If you're going to use this as your one wheel serves all, it could be your prototype wheel, your GT wheel. It has the capability of doing everything. LED shift lights. I mean, can't speak well enough about this wheel. Final thing is the grip. The grip is so comfortable because it tapers here at the bottom and it just holds your hands really, really well. So comfortable. Max 01. This guy right here is probably the wheel that you guys speak about the most in my comment section, and I read them. So don't be afraid to share your comments and feedback, whether it's good or bad. I will answer everything. It doesn't matter. I just want to hear what you guys think about this stuff. The functionality is unbelievable. I mean, just like the 300 GT, you have a ton of thumb encoders. You have actually 4 rotaries on this steering wheel. I honestly don't program every single button. There's too many of them. This is my steering wheel of choice for prototype racing. Sim hub compatibility on the screen, tons of LEDs, also the magic buttons on the back. I love these. I mean, I use them all the time. Paddles are amazing. You have extra magnets if you want to make the paddles more tense or have more resistance. And yeah, clutch paddles, phenomenal. Can't speak well enough about this wheel. And we're actually doing a giveaway for this exact steering wheel. Conspit was nice enough to offer a steering wheel for us to give away to the community. So if you guys want to enter, all you have to do is be a follower or subscriber of this YouTube channel, and then head over to Instagram. We have a post about the Max 01 with a giveaway. Just follow the instructions in the caption and you can enter to win this very steering wheel. And I'm so happy that we're able to give back to the community. And I know sim racing can get quite expensive, so it's cool to be able to give this steering wheel to one of you guys. So the main difference, now jumping back on my main rig, that I kind of feel is not really so much from the steering wheel feedback. Like, I think the 20 Newton meter, the Aries Platinum, is really actually an amazing option. The weight of the steering wheel is probably the thing that impacts the steering motor the most and the feedback. I'm using a very light steering wheel at the moment. This is the Porsche Cup replica wheel because I'm trying to prepare for Porsche Cup
weekend. And the fact that the steering wheel is carbon fiber and very lightweight, like a full carbon design, changes the feeling and profile a lot. So in terms of sharpness and everything, like the Conspit Aries Platinum is really, really good. I got so much feedback, a lot of the sensations of the car, understeer, oversteer, I could catch all these micro slides. It was really, really good. The braking, on the other hand, I think that the hydraulic pressure sensor was really, really precise. I was impressed with that. In a perfect world, I would love to have more travel. This is something I'm used to in the real cars, having a lot more travel available, and also with my current setup, I'm able to have a lot more travel. So I have about 70 millimeters of travel at the moment, where I felt like I probably get around 30 or so on the CPP Evo. Not a deal breaker because they are so precise, and I did enjoy the fact that I could really select any brake pressure I wanted, but having more travel definitely makes it feel a lot more realistic. With anything though in motorsports, you just have to adjust your equipment. Not every car is going to be the same, not every piece of equipment is going to be identical, and it's really down to the driver to adapt and adjust to the equipment. Only thing you can't replace is precision, and that's something that the Conspit equipment does provide, is really precise feedback. So I appreciated that. I was able to hit my marks and actually I think deliver a pretty decent lap time. So now we're up to temp on the tires. We're gonna try to hit the lap time. Let's see what we can do here at Sonoma on my main rig. And across the line, we have 34.8. I mean, as expected, you would expect me to drive quick. With only a few laps, I mean, spending a day on the Conspit equipment, to be able to be within 2/10 of this is actually pretty impressive. So it goes to show you that, like I said, the precision is the key. That's what you really need to look for. Everything else is just going to be adapting to your equipment and understanding how to maximize what you have. So to sum it up, is 2/10 of a second really worth $45,000 difference in terms of the sim rigs? For someone like me, it's not about the lap time. I think it's about the experience and what I'm using my sim rig for. I'm using this as a representation of what my race car feels like. Having the motion, having the belt tensioners, all this extra stuff around me is really what makes the difference. So if we strip all that stuff away and we really think about what the equipment was on the Conspit rig, we're talking pedals, steering wheels, and steering motors. And when you look at it from that perspective and you just take all this other stuff away, I would say that it's pretty competitive. And it would just take me a little bit more time to get used to the equipment, but to be within 2/10 straight away shows that it's intuitive. It's precise enough for me to be able to jump on and extract quite good pace out of it straight away. And when you put it up against this, I mean, it's really up for you guys to decide, and it kind of is a nice showcase as to how we can get caught up in equipment and sim racing, and how we always chase more and more, and we think equipment's going to make us better. But ultimately, it's the skill, and the skill alone, that sets the good drivers apart from the average ones.